Green check marks. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. We got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
I'm hoping we can cover it. I didn't notice. Did you have a hard stop that we're aware of?
No.
All
Well,
right,
yeah. Well,
the
we can
normal.
keep we can go keep going till right till 9, so we're
Yeah,
good.
cool. Excellent. All right, I think we're getting into it. Let me share the screen. Now that I got my setup ready. Put that up. All right, welcome back to Silicon Scoop, everybody. Let's jump right into this with this new heart transplant system that seems to be a game changer. A beating heart transplant represents a groundbreaking medical procedure where the donor's heart continues beating through the entire transplantation process. This revolutionary approach eliminates the dangerous period when the heart stops receiving oxygen. Traditional heart transplants have long relied on cold storage methods. These procedures create risky window where the donor heart experiences um, what do you call that? Ischemia?
Ischemic, yeah.
Yeah,
Ischemia,
complete
yeah.
lack of blood flow and oxygen. The limitation has plagued cardiac surgeons for decades. So now the National Taiwan University has successfully performed the world's first zero ischemic time heart transplant. The breakthrough achievement keeps the donor heart beating from the heart beating throughout the whole procedure. So that represents a significant advancement in the technology. So the heart is stronger, is not suffering from this. What do you think about this, John?
Yeah. I think this is cool, and I don't think that you and I are educated enough in medical to understand how important this is. So, but let's kind of dive into the details, and hopefully we can disseminate some information. So, yeah, so when performing heart transplants, like you said, they usually stop the donor heart and place it in cold storage, which is called ischemic time. And that slows down metabolism, protects the tissue, and all that sort of stuff while it's moved to the recipient. However, even a few hours without blood and oxygen, ischemia, it can damage the heart muscle and increase the chances of complications, organ rejection, and delayed recovery after transplantation. So they did this new approach where they eliminated the ischemic time. So they employed this specifically engineered mobile organ care system called OCS, which was inspired by technologies such as extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, or ECMO. I don't know if you've heard of ECMO before. I've heard of it from the medical shows I watch. Um, so the portable device, it's continually pumping oxygen-rich blood through the heart while it was outside the body. So the heart kept beating and received nourishment throughout the transfer between separating rooms and through the implantation into the recipient. So, unlike there have been other previous heart transplant efforts. There was one at Stanford. This technique essentially achieved true zero ischemic time, where the heart was never stopped, not even for a moment. So, um, the use of this could lower complication rates, shorten recovery times, expand what's possible for critically ill patients worldwide. Also, it could potentially lengthen the time the heart can be out of a body between patients too, which is huge, right? Um, what are your thoughts on this? What do you
Like
think?
did it's all good. Like
Yeah,
everything, related to this thing is thumbs up. Like reduce rejection risk because it's a healthier thing. Dilated cardiomyopathy patients experience life-changing outcomes from the surgery. Standardizing this procedure could address global organ shortage crisis, saving countless lives. This organ care system represents the most significant cardiac surgery advancement in recent medical history, and the continuous blood flow prevents apoptosis and necrosis during the transplantation, preserving the myocardial integrity. You don't get the muscle loss, you don't get the degradation. this looks great. Temperature controlled, maintains the metabolic stability. There's a 3-phase implementation, includes procurement, transport, and surgical connection without interruption. Real-time monitoring ensures optimal pressure, oxygenation during the entire transplantation process. Like, this is amazing. It's beyond anything, there's obviously some costs related to this, but this is going to dramatically increase the rates at which you're going to have success on this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And the cool thing about this is, I know we cover a lot of theoretical stuff. This has actually been done. It's been proven, which is great. And it's using known type procedures that are just been adapted to this. So the cool thing about this is the hardware is portable and the principle is adaptable. So it could be used to improve transplants of other organs, and it could be used in other hospitals, which would make high-risk transplants safer and more accessible, which would mean that there would be shorter wait lists and better survival rates for people needing new hearts or new organs, right? Which is awesome, because there's this huge long list and there's all these protocols that are needed to be followed. Like if the heart was across the country, you might not be able to get it in time, but with this procedure, you might be able to get it now. So it opens up a plethora of options, right?
Yeah, the first beating heart there's so many options now that you can transport it farther, last longer. You've got more options to choose your donor. You can take a little more time if that's a thing that matters. The first beating heart a patient was a 49-year-old woman suffering from a dilated cardiomyopathy heart transplant. So she needed that. And, the dilated cardiomyopathy causes the heart to become enlarged and weaken, making it unable to pump blood. So her surgery proceeded without complications. The heart transplant team implemented the continuous beating donor heart. Post-operative monitoring revealed exceptional results. So, smoother recovery process, long-term success indicators, and low cardiac enzyme levels during it all point to so many green lights to how much better this is.
Yeah. And just to kind of compare the attempt at Stanford versus this one. So what they reported was as a very short ischemic episode was actually 10 to 30 minutes. So now they've taken that 10 to 30 minutes and it's now essentially zero. I'm guessing there's probably a few seconds where they have to switch things over, but let's say essentially zero, right?
Yeah, essentially zero. Like, I mean, the heart's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah. And you've got to disconnect.
Well, you can connect the valve while you're disconnecting. There's some stuff I think you could do. Okay. My thought is that usually, I don't mean to be, but you're taking a heart from a dead person. So the heart usually has stopped pumping for a while. It's not out of the body. It's not, whatever, before the surgeons can get it and take it out and implement the system.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, right? Yeah.
They're not, yeah.
They're not hooking everything up, then killing the guy, and then taking the heart, and then, well, maybe they are in a weird sci-fi world. So there is some of that, but the whole point is, like, the reduced tissue damage, the lower rejection list, and they enhance patient outcomes, like faster healing time, shorter hospital stays, quicker return to normal activities, improved quality of life. It's a huge improvement. You're going to get back to your normal life so much faster and better. Your heart's going to be stronger. This is like, anybody who's experiencing this, the future looks bright.
Yeah. Exactly.
The heart transplant technology addresses worldwide organ shortage. Better preservation methods could increase available donor hearts, because the problem is, if a bunch come available and they don't have anybody, they expire. Because they don't have the system to hang on to them. Expanding donor pool, hearts that were previously unsuitable may become suitable because of how quickly they get the tissue damage, compatibility. Longer transport distances become possible. Like you said, more patients could receive transplants. They're reduced waiting lists. So This is all great. We just need to standardize the goals, the training program, standardize the system across the board, and get governments to adopt it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is awesome.
So let us know what you think about this new heart transplant surgery. We think it's amazing, but is there other technologies you think out there that are better? Do you think this is not going to make mainstream for some reason? Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear about it. Meta smart glasses see everything, but should they? Super sensing technology is an AI powered system that enables instant facial recognition, contextual reminders, and activity tracking. The system works by analyzing visual input through the built in cameras and processing this data through Meta's advanced AI algorithm. The technology in these smart glasses is being deployed into two new smart glasses called Aperol and Bellini. These devices represent the next generation of Meta's smart eyewear lineup. The company is also testing super sensing features on the current Ray-Ban glasses AI models. What do you think about the super sensing features in these glasses that are looks like a supercharged version of what we've seen before? And we covered the hack of the Meta glasses, how people could go out and it was scanning and new people wore, and we saw people go up to say, hey, I met you at the conference last year, because it looked up posts they made on social media. And
Yeah.
So this becomes that, but worse, or pumped up, or way better, depending on how you look
worse
at it.
because there more people can use it. But this is the news that I've kind of been waiting for, but it also scares the crap out of me. So I love it because this would be great at networking events like we had talked about, where you the faces, so real-time facial recognition, it can identify people by name as you encounter them. It can recognize objects, understand your environment, and trigger context-aware reminders, such as suggesting you grab your keys or remind you about your grocery list as you pass by a store, as you're leaving the house, right? That would be great for people with ADHD. So the downfall about this is that they have to keep the cameras and sensors active at all times, which feed data consistently to the onboard AI. Apparently, the core innovation is a hands-free, always-on system. And that's where the AI acts like a real-life assistant and anticipates your needs based on what it sees and hears, and responds with voice commands. And responds to voice commands as well, like if you're saying, hey, Meta, start live AI or something like that. But the biggest hurdle, battery life. So tests that they're doing currently show that live AI feature currently only lasts about 30 minutes on the existing Ray-Ban Meta glasses, because it's a high power draw, continuous sensing, analysis, all that sort of stuff. So I think you and I might have covered it, or we at least talked about it. The new glasses that they were working on, that they were talking about probably maybe about 6 months ago. I feel like that's where this is going to come into play, where it's going to work a lot better. But I can't see it working longer, even with the new glasses, longer than, say, maybe 2 hours at the most. What do you think?
Well, I think it depends on the application. Like, I think let's go through a couple of features, and then we'll talk about why I think we're going to get longer running versions than we may think. Super sensing enables real-time identification without bystander indicators. Like, people don't know they're being identified. We have current battery constraints. Environmental scanning suggests actions based on location and context. If facial recognition requires opt-in but lacks bystander opt-out. Meta stores voice data for 1 year without an opt-out option. Continuous data collection risks creating public surveillance networks. Interconnected wearables, earbuds, jewelry may expand sensing capabilities. Non-display glasses serve as a cost-effective AI testing platform. So take a step back and say, okay, we are really creating a surveillance state, but that's why I think we're going to see police and military versions where The glasses are like hooked up to battery pack on the belt or on the backpack or whatever. So they'll get longer use. But like, you know, you're doing events, you're doing security, I don't know, at a rally in the US, at a concert here, at whatever, you know, you got to have one guy walking around with this, talking to the police database. So it's got to be proprietary or whatever, identifying people in the crowd, right? So you could really see that. But, you know, again, is that profiling? Is that whatever? If we're just, you know, what are we detecting? We're using AI. Are we going to detect anger? Are we going to detect these things? Or are we just going to read a database of criminals? Like, what is the long-term intent of this? So that's one thing from a military or a police point of view, right? You know, it's easy now for something like this for a military group, insurgents doing whatever, to determine if their target is here in the square, find them quickly, you know, have the AI identify, track, and all that kind of stuff. So I could see that. But there's another thing to give the world of YouTubers and TikTokers and sensationalists. We see this at the gym and at the grocery store and at whatever. People are pranking on the subway and doing all this crap that just is a complete disruption to society. And now we're just going to give them more tools to do that as a civilian group of people. It just starts to scare me that group will become 100-time fold now that this will just become easy to do.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like when you're out in a public space, you can't really expect privacy, and this just takes it one step further and makes it even worse. Like there's going to be no privacy, and I think we're getting to the point where I don't know if you remember the movies where people are wearing specific clothing, specific things on their faces and stuff like that. Like I think we're getting close to that. The thing is how society manages these technologies. It's going to depend on transparency, consent, and well-designed privacy safeguards. So the tech itself could be game-changing, but misuse or inadequate oversight could completely erode that. And that's what scares the crap out of me, because we're so far behind when it comes to oversight with AI right now, that I don't know if we're ever going to catch up. I hope we do, but we're so far behind because AI is moving so fast. I don't know if we're going to properly deal with this, if that makes sense.
We're not. I think it's impossible. Like, I don't understand how anybody could think we could deal with this properly. Once you have technology like this that is contextual aware, it knows where you are, what environment this is. So not only the location, but the concert, the venue, all that stuff, and it's recognized everyone else around you, recommends tasks based on your environment, has smart reminders and object recognition. Like, you're really, and you know, you have hundreds of these people in the crowd. When I say these people, you know, glass holes, if you want to call them that, because to go way back, where are these glasses recording everything? And the battery technology is going to get better. We know for a fact, we talk about new battery technology all the time on the show, and some stuff's coming out next year and the year after that that's going to double, triple, quadruple the battery life of capabilities of some of these things. So now you can run these things for 4 or 5 hours and record, do local recognition, local recording, cloud recording, stream, and it's available to everyone all the time. I feel like we're in that. What was that where they had it wired in your head and you could feel the feed?
Yeah,
where everyone was. Yeah, it just. Yeah. Why do we need this? And
I think, like, if we're talking about the end, if we're talking about current technology to kind of mitigate this, I think the quickest solution to kind of try to control this or try to mitigate it as much as we can is geofencing, because they're always going to be connected, so they're going to know where they are. So if they're in a certain area, obviously hackers are going to get around that. But I think that would be the best way right now, is like set up a geofence, and if you're within the geofence, then your glasses don't work.
This has got to be against every EU privacy policy I can possibly imagine.
Yeah, maybe it's time to move to the EU.
Well, I'm just saying that
No.
it's not really talked about here. Like, they talk about the company response and the privacy issues, but we don't really talk about, hey, what is the EU going to do about this? But there are some extra insights on, but they're making, you can't do this, you can't do that, privacy, everyone's, data has to be controlled by them. So if you're walking around and it's identifying people and recording them and publishing it all the time, it's one thing to randomly catch a picture. It's another thing in a public place. It's another thing to go in and out of public and private spaces, collect a video and identify those people and, do stuff with that data. That's a completely separate thing.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
But having taken a step back, who doesn't want these glasses? Who, you want to walk in a room and identify the people you need to talk to and be able to have their name pop up and whatnot when you go to talk to them, and have whatever, maybe some social posts or your last email interactions be over there so you can have an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, your last conversation. Have you had a conversation with them? Like with the amount of networking events that you and I are going to, I'm finding a more and more of a need for something. And I'm sure I could do this just using automation workflows, but I can't do it in real time. Figuring out if I've talked to someone before, what I've talked to them about. There's so many people nowadays that it's tough for me to keep track of everything, which is why I've started going to less networking events.
Well, you say you can't do that in real time, and I know we're getting a little out of the way, but if you had like Siri or Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever, you can say, hey, where do I know Bill Hayden from, or whatever. I just made up a name because you just met the person, and have it go away, and it could come back, speak to you. It could do whatever. If you have an earplug in, it could show you, what have you. So, it's not going to be identify the person from across the room and do all that for you. You're going to have to say, hey, who is this person?
Yeah. Well, first off, definitely not Siri, because Siri is the worst of them all. So like maybe Gemini Assistant or something like that.
You can hook Siri now up to these external AIs. You can use Siri to call whatever you want. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Siri has been the worst of all of them since day one, and they've never improved it. And like when you ask Siri a question, it still just gives you a web result, does it not?
Yeah, it's worse than when they bought it. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But back to Meta glasses. Let's not just that's all right. I started the diversion. I see that there's going to be a lot of legal frameworks that are lagging behind wearable AI capabilities. Because I'm with you. What I would like is, and this is probably what OpenAI is coming up with, because they're decided their IO device is not going to be, it's not a wearable, but it's something you would have on you that's context aware. So I think you're going to have something that listens either all the time or when you press a button, but just is with you, knows your geography, also knows all your agents and stuff in the back end, knows where you're supposed to be, your calendar. So everything is in context.
Yeah.
So when I sit down with you, I don't have to tell it I'm sitting down with you. It records our conversation and I go away. I don't have to tell it anything. It knows all that. It transcribes it. It sends to my agents. It does all the things I'm supposed to do in the back end. I don't have to tell it anything. Yeah. That I think is a future that they're heading for. But again, that's just a guess. But you tie these Meta glasses in, the same type of thing, but now you're getting video and images. We're living in a futuristic world, that's for sure. So there's one thing of recording everything, and then there's the other thing about being distracted by feeds that you can now project on your glasses. Yeah. So I think we're going to be a far more distracted society and a far more, there is no such thing as privacy.
Yeah. There was an article, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, where Mark Zuckerberg said if people in the future, people that aren't wearing these AI glasses are going to be left in the dust. Which, yes and no.
Well, what future? And I could see that. Like, it's just like if you're not using AI agents, you're going to be left in the dust. If you're not using workflow and automation tools, you're going to be left in the dust. But when does the glasses become that next level of agent control?
Yeah.
That's the, when you'll be left behind if you don't have your alerts, your agents, you're controlling them all visually, what's happening. You can interact with stuff and say, hey, I like that. Order me something from that restaurant. I'll pick it up in a bit. I see a theater up there. Grab me some tickets, whatever. Like, there's so many different use cases, but having it context aware, being able to see what you can see here, knowing where you are, and just being able to say general things, and getting what you want back is going to be an interesting world.
Yeah, for sure.
But the world, everyone's running around talking to themselves right now as it is, because they're always on the phone, they're always distracted by screen. So where the more technology integrated we get, the less human we become.
There's one thing I started doing that this new what I've started doing, because I used to walk around with my phone in my hand all the time, right? Whenever I get up, I put it in my hand, get it in my hand, and walk around, even if I was just going upstairs. But now I've started trying to just leave it there, walk away. If I'm only going for a few minutes, and it's been great. It's been a good exercise to do.
Yeah. Now we're going to strap glasses to your head, and you're not going to be able to see without them, so you won't be able to leave it behind.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think the technology is really cool. I love the direction we're going. You throw this along with some of the night vision glasses / contact lenses we were talking about. You can really get some cool technology in these things. I'd love to know what you think. Are you going to be grabbing a pair and streaming this stuff online? Are you going to be using it for something else? I can see all sorts of apps being used for this. Things are going off in my head right now. Let's build apps for this today. What are you going to use these? Are you going to avoid people who use these? Or you think it's the end of privacy? Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Mm-hmm.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. So the end of the life on Earth is a subject of scientific study involving climate change, solar evolution, and human impact. The advanced supercomputers are used to model Earth's long-term future and predict possible demise timelines. Multiple phases of Earth's decline are identified, from current science to eventual uninhabitability. Human activities significantly accelerate natural process leading to Earth's potential end, and scientists propose space colonization, renewable energy, and climate engineering as mitigation steps. So let's get right into it. So the most advanced, I don't know about the most advanced supercomputing has helped scientists understand Earth's long-term habitability, and these powerful machines can run millions of calculations per second. And this supercomputer predicted Earth study shows that Earth's decline will reach its peak around make sure I have this right, 1,000,000,2021.
Yes. But that's based on the sun. Right?
Fair. Yep.
That's not based on us wrecking the planet, I think.
Well, that's in base solar output increases 1% every 110 million years, inevitably. So when you say based on sun, it's pretty much that. Oxygen levels are declining steadily with Earth's atmosphere. Human activities drastically accelerate natural environmental decline processes. So they got to put what they predict as climate change in here. Supercomputers model millions of scenarios for future predictions, but you're right. Current solar storms provide early indicators of solar revolution. The deadline is mostly based on the solar output becoming too much.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? Because all suns have an expiry date, which is billions of years. But yeah, so based on this, the sun's life cycle, a mass extinction, different things like that. This is just based on on the fact that the sun will essentially burn out.
Yeah.
And when I say burn out, though, is that it'll get hotter and brighter over time, and then kind of what did
Yeah,
you
it'll make
turn
it.
into supernova?
Yeah, eventually they become a supernova, but I don't know when that happens on here. But it's saying that sun output increases, like I said, 1% eventually. Just the extra heat will make it too hot for most life on Earth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll have
So
to see how that goes. Go ahead.
yeah, no, this is interesting. I'm curious. So this is interesting because they just based on climate projections, solar evolution data, and atmospheric chemistry, right? I'm I'm curious to know, and I couldn't find it in here, which I don't think it does, because I think life on Earth would end. Well, actually, this is all life on Earth. This isn't just human life. So, um, I'm curious to know if, which I don't think it does, if this model takes into account what we are doing to the planet.
Well, it's supposed to take into account what we're doing to the planet. But like, let's face it, these are computer models that are trying to take in billions and billions of calculations and on the climate, on the solar, on the atmospheric composition changes, on like all these things. And what do we know about computer models? All computer models are wrong. They're all wrong because they're just models. Some of them are useful. So we look at this and say, great. Even if the human driven climate change is only X, the sun's still going to kill us and the atmosphere composition is still going to kill us. We can only accelerate the change with our climate change and make it not a billion 2021, make it closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have the timelines and the phases for the and the key major events for the Earth's decline based on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Present data. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was just going to say they've got present day to 2100. Right now, we have already seen early signs of changes. The scientists predict the current condition gives us clues about what might happen. Solar activity changes, more intense solar storms hitting the Earth, UV radiation reaching the surface, stronger coronal mass injections affecting satellites, changes in Earth's magnetic field responses. There's some climate indicators here, but it gets more interesting. Phase 2, which is 1,000 years from now, or 3024, looking at 1,000 years, the climate becomes more dramatic. The phase represents a turning point where Earth's demise process accelerates significantly. Oxygen levels drop noticeably worldwide. Carbon dioxide concentration reaches a dangerous level. Methane levels increase due to warming temperatures. Air quality becomes harmful in many regions. Average global temperature risks rise by several degrees. Many current climate zones disappear entirely. Desert areas expand to previously habitable regions. Ocean temperatures rise dramatically, and that's the 1,000-year mark.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is unlike like these blanket mass extinctions in Earth's history, like the Permian or the event that killed the dinosaurs, this process that they're talking about, it's essentially astronomically programmed, and I don't mean the word astronomically as in a huge number, as in astronomy, right? And it's part of the natural aging of the solar system. So they predicted this based on the solar system itself and not other factors that could potentially kill us. If that makes sense.
Well, when they're talking about the sun stuff, yes, but they also talked about our atmosphere, which has more to do with what's going on with us. Like, and this, I think it makes some assumptions, again, computer models, around which ways about many plants and animals will go extinct, that that our oxygen levels drop, that we won't increase forestry at some point or change any of these directions or what have you, that will go on a pace of steady decline or steady increase of carbon or what have you. We have lots of time to actually, I would say lots of time. Well, in this, when I look at the 1 billion year, we have lots of time to change that overall. But it just predicts that in the next 1,000 years, our carbon dioxide reaches dangerous level, methane reaches, air quality becomes harmful, and this is because of stuff we're doing.
Yeah.
So, ideally in a billion years, it'll be warmer on Earth, but we'll have figured stuff out around how to uh, live in a warmer environment.
Maybe we'll get around in those tunnels that the Boring Company is drilling. We'll be living.
Well, maybe we'll have, there's all sorts of things. Like they're already talking about, even though they pulled this in California, they were talking about seeding the atmosphere with particles that would reflect the sun and stuff. So there's, and
Isn't
1,000 years
China
from
already
now,
doing that?
they might be, but I know there was U.S. was talking about doing it, but it's been rejected.
Yeah.
So, which as far as I'm concerned, is a good thing because that sounds like something we shouldn't be messing with unless we absolutely have to.
Well, didn't we cover the UK? Don't they want to build a blocker for sun?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, good old Montgomery Burns. That's good.
And that's what I mean by they say in 1,000 years we're going to have major atmospheric composition shifts. Sure, but if they're already talking about building these things that are going to block the sun and building this and building that, we're switching to solar power, taking our solar panels out, beaming stuff down, going to ideally the world moves in the right direction and we slow that, and also new technology comes along to clean our environment, to diffuse the heat and the sun and make sure that we can actually keep the environment. It's a combination of things. The future is not stagnant.
No, it's not.
So good news is that you have a billion years before the actual Earth dies based on what's happening in the sun. The bad news is that as humans, the habitability in the next 1,000 years could affect us dramatically. So we need to stay on top of all these things. And but it's good news that we've got at least a billion years to sort out what's going on with the sun.
Absolutely.
Let us know what you think. Are you worried about this? Am I taking this too lightly? Are we taking this too lightly? Should we be addressing climate change more? Or the world's eventually going to die and that's the way it's going to be. Let us know what your thoughts are. Interactive 3D displays bring tactile visual depth to digital content that once was only possible in science fiction. Hologram technology now allows researchers to project lifelike images that respond to human touch and movement. Scientists have achieved a breakthrough innovation with FlexiVol, a revolutionary system that changes how volumetric images are created and interacted with. The groundbreaking development replaces rigid components with elastic materials, making direct interaction with holograms safer and more intuitive. What's going on here, John?
Yeah, this is cool. I like this. So traditional holograms, obviously, they appear suspended in midair, and they're often made using a rapidly oscillating surface called a diffuser. So the images themselves, they're projected onto this diffuser at thousands of frames per second, and it creates a convincing 3D image due to persistence of vision, right? However, the surface itself is usually rigid and moves so fast that trying to touch it would injure you or break the device until now. So to solve this, the researchers at Public University of Navarra, they introduced this elastic diffuser, which is made from stretchy strips, which allows safe, direct hand interaction. So when users insert their fingers between these oscillating elastic strips, the system adjusts the projected image in real time so that virtual objects appear consistent and stable, even as the material deforms. So they're calling the technology FlexiVol, and it lets people grab, rotate, or even perform walking finger gestures to manipulate these virtual objects in midair, which essentially is bridging the gap between digital and physical touch for holographic displays. I think this is really cool. You're not going to need VR headsets. You're not going to need special glasses. You can just interact naturally. I think this is a cool technology there's so many applications, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's amazing. There's so many applications for this. It depends on the cost. And it's a combination of the flexi system where it's like a rubbery instead of rigid, and the real-time um, imagery that allows it to respond quickly, the real-time image correction that maintains the visual quality during the interaction. So it reacts when you touch it and changes the images that are repeating at 2880 images per second, so that you're getting a really good um, quality image that um, moves and touches, not all super distorted and whatnot. This is really cool for all sorts of reasons. This reminds me of, you know, Minority Report, the hologram globes we see in all sorts of stuff, the interactive sky maps that we see in shows and whatnot that sci-fi has done for us. But I really love what this is doing, because now you can interact. Imagine being able to interact with, as a training doctor, human body, as an example,
Yeah.
or as a kid, being able to build, I don't know, a little nuclear fusion reactor at thing, because the stuff moves it apart. Or imagining all the things you could do, from STEM learning, museums and exhibition engaging visitors like never before. Um, and this is definitely a step towards what I call the holodeck experience.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what we're getting to. This is cool. There's so many applications. Like, you can assemble a virtual engine. You can teach anatomy. You can have collaborative workspaces, public exhibits like museums and different things like that. This, I think, is a giant leap forward for potentially how people can learn in this new digital age, I think.
Yeah, and it's a first system that enables direct barehanded manipulation without any external controls or devices. So it's definitely something interesting here. They have a come and interact paradigm, allowing any user to engage simply by approaching the display.
Yeah.
So direct alignment between hand position and the rendered object enables intuitive physical movements. It sounds amazing, and I would love to play with this.
Yeah, me too. This is perfect for STEM topics. It gives people a more immersive way to explore these topics. You could interact with historical artifacts without actually touching the historical artifacts. Um, you could have a real time view of the engine that you're working on, and kind of interact with it and see find the problem without using special gloves like they did in Minority Report, which you may have to still, but if we're getting more advanced. But um, I think this is a key innovation that's going to go far, as long as they can get it to a point where it's usable and it's quality enough, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it looks like it's quality enough based on the stuff we have here, but I don't know what that means, right?
Yeah.
So elimination of external controllers make the volumetric display technology more accessible than previous systems. User interact with 3D objects using natural hand movements similar to smartphone gestures. That's where you get the Minority Report thing. So you'd be able to do it without gloves, potentially, depending on what the functions were in each of those. Button clicks meant potentially on fingers when you're clicking stuff or what have you.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a lot of current limitations. It remains experimental. Timeline for commercial availability has not been defined by the researchers, so we're not sure what it is. But however, the successful demonstrations prove that interactive holograms are no longer science fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm curious to see how long it takes them to get into an institution, or get it to a point where it's commercially viable and usable. But this is cool.
So we'll have to see the future. We'll keep an eye on this, but we'd love to know what you think about this 3D hologram controller. And would you be excited, or what uses would you like to see from that? Leave us a comment in below.
Hmm.
Perplexity Comet represents a revolutionary leap forward in how we interact with the internet. It was launched on July 23, 2025, and this groundbreaking AI search engine aims to transform browsing into curiosity-driven interactions with persistent AI assistants. We've talked about how Google's getting beaten up by the FTC. They have to separate search the Chrome browser from Google itself because they have this monopoly and whatnot. And just at the time where all this browser competition is starting to come out, and Perplexity has a plan to take on Google at the browser and at the search level. But they're definitely the underdog here. What do you think, John?
Yeah. So you and I have talked about Google's AI results, right? So this is cool. So they're pushing the limits of what an AI powered search can do by designing what they're calling an answer engine, which emphasizes conversational, source-backed responses rather than a standard list of links. So unlike Google's ad-supported business model, what Perplexity is trying to do is they're trying to focus on delivering direct, trustworthy answers with cited sources. And I'll tell you right now, they're actually doing pretty good at that. So their approach is moving away from traditional keyword or keyword-based search. And it's already influenced how major competitors, including Google, are designing their products. I think Perplexity was one of the first ones to start doing this. And then Google hopped on and they added their AI onto it. And now Claude and now all of these other AIs are doing this too. But the technical pillar that Perplexity's commitment to is kind of they're calling it accuracy as an AI layer. So they iterate rapidly to ensure answers are up to date and free from hallucination, which is a known problem in LLMs. So the way that they achieved this was they combined multiple LLMs, including open source options, and incorporate strict fact-checking, context awareness, and deep web retrieval. And so they've been able to develop features like deep research for complex queries, which works really well. I've tried it. And they're also forming partnerships to pre-install its assistance on hardware devices. I think they partnered with Motorola and Samsung. So they're slowly like kind of coming up and becoming this well-known platform, if that makes sense. What are your thoughts on this, Craig? Because I know you don't use Perplexity too much, but what are your thoughts on this article?
Well, it's not that I don't use Perplexity too much. I do use Perplexity, but I use it mostly via API. Because I use different AIs for different things.
Yeah.
And I've had many discussions, either at my Flow Grammar events or other things. Everyone's like, oh, I'm using Claude. I'm now using OpenAI 03. It codes better, but it's slower. And I'm using this one. Like I use a bunch of them. And I use Perplexity for doing research for articles and whatnot. So I will call that in my workflow, say, okay, go out and do your research, use a Sonar Pro, go out and do your research, come back with this information. And then I'll give that to, say, Claude to do some writing with that information. And then I'll use something else to maybe wrap that writing into an HTML. And then I'll do, so I use what's appropriate for the interaction. When you're doing development, you have different use cases and you'll use the code, that platform that works for you. However, I take a step back and say, I think the more competition is better. I think these AI browsers are interesting, and we'll have to see how good it gets. When, the concepts are things like they don't use bookmarks. They replace that with persistent session memory across tabs and browsing history.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but if I have every day 30 browse tabs open all the time, doing all sorts of stuff, different things, what does that do for a long-term memory? Can you remember everything I ever visited everywhere all the time or not?
Yeah. But
so
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the one that I haven't had a chance to play around with, because it's only for Max members, but is their browser Comet, which I hear phenomenal things about. Have you heard anything about it?
I've heard some good things. But we have a note here, and this is a question I've had: is when does Apple just buy Perplexity? We talked about how bad Siri is and
You
their
know what?
AI situation.
That would make sense. They're probably the cheapest out of them all right now, right?
So we'll have to see. And they're not going after them. They're going after Midjourney. I was going to say so some AI lawsuits, but that's not Perplexity. This I've seen good things about the browser, but I haven't used it yet because they're giving it out to Perplexity Pro users first, and I'm on the wait list, so we'll see. We see that OpenAI's got Agent, and there's a bunch of other AI-based browsers out there,
Yeah.
and there are a bunch of automation-based browsers that let you do stuff with them, like Operator and Browser Use, and a few of these other ones. And they all are coming along, but I've been using a product called Skyvern for, I don't know, 5 years that does most of this stuff. And it's maybe, I won't say way ahead of it, because like it's had these filters, have development teams been releasing stuff with it all the time, but these things are starting to leapfrog each other when you put huge development teams and huge AI engines behind the browser instead of just somebody building a browser that you would hook AI up to. So I think it depends your use case and all this, but we are definitely moving to AI browsing, and this AI being able to find and gather the information for you in one place, so you're not searching all the time. But the human condition is we love the doom scroll, so we're gonna have to see, what's gonna feed us that itch, or scratch that itch for us, if we're using AI to pull all this stuff together. But yeah, this is a new interface for us, right? These AI browser interfaces are going to go out and pull all this information together for us. And I don't know how good that's going to be, especially when, the CEO of Cloudflare comes out and says, yeah, we're going to start cracking down on bots. We're going to start really making sure if it's an AI agent or whatever, that we're not going to let it through.
Yeah.
So, okay. But we're all moving to AI based browsers. How's that all going to work? So we now have a war of, we're not going to let your AI browser through, but you don't know about my AI browser. I'm hiding that I'm an AI browser. And now my AI is going to use a different browser, pretending it's another. Like, we're going to have that funky stuff, and we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah. I think so. If you think about it this way, right? Google paid how much to Apple to so that their search was the default search engine, right? I think Perplexity is taking a page out of that. They're trying to get pre-installed on phones as the native assistant, and like I think they're taking the right path as long as they keep the quality of the outputs high. I think they've got a decent chance.
Yeah, because Google's not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know when that is enforced, but they're not allowed to pay people to make their search engine the default anymore. That's anti-competitive. So
yeah,
I wonder if they're going to allow Perplexity to do, and other companies to do the same.
yeah. Well, Perplexity doesn't have a monopoly, right? Whereas Google did.
Yeah, but I have a funny thing, like, why can one company do something and another company can't? Why can't I not pay you to do something, but this other company can pay you to do something? There's some finite stuff there that really kind of needs to be addressed, saying this is either a predatory practice or it isn't.
Yeah, true.
But maybe because they have too much money, that they set the bar, that they set this, there have to be third party involved, that we have to figure out. Because when you do stuff, when big companies love regulation, because that builds them a bigger moat. New companies can't come in because they have to pay $1 million plus to just meet the regulation requirements, while the big companies don't care about this. So when you that, because it's easy, it builds a moat, they get more and more of that market. So this becomes that kind of situation. Was Google building a moat by saying, I'm going to pay you 40 billion or whatever it was to use us as a search engine? We all know that was 89% of Firefox's income. Mozilla's income came from Google paying them for search stuff. So what's going to happen to those browsers? So it's an interesting competition. We've got big names with big money doing this. The problem is, Google's the only one in this game making money.
Yeah.
So when I say in this game, I mean Perplexity, these AI tools, these AI browsers coming out. Google right now, the advantage they have is they make billions and billions of dollars per quarter, and they can probably outlast the competition.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think about these AI browsers and this heating up, and who's going to be the winner here, and which ones are you excited to test? Which ones do you think the best are? Leave a comment below. So what do you got going on, John? This will probably be early September.
Early September. So not much. I'll have some office hours at TBDC. Obviously there's startup drinks in September, TechTO in September, and this will be in October, but Elevate. So yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have Flowgrammer events as
Flowgrammer.
Yep. So check a look at torontostarts.com, flowgrammer.ca for all that details. And you help people get non-dilutive funding, John. What does that mean? Who should reach out to you? How does that work?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's a disconnect between what an actual startup is and what the government thinks a startup is. So you need to be around for at least 2 years if you're looking for anything other than a hiring grant. If you're looking for a hiring grant, those are easy to do on your own. But if you're looking for anything other than that, reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the best way. But for any startup business coaching or needs, what do they do, Craig?
Just head over to torontostarts.com. Almost everything we do is over there. We help startups succeed. There's mentoring, there's templates, there's our workshops, there's grant information, there's programs, there's events, there's all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. And everything's over there. If you're looking to automate your business, use AI and automation tools to take your business next level, cut expenses, grow your business, check out flowgrammer.ca and the services over there. We also run an inner circle builders club where we're having our members building new stuff every week. If you're just getting started, if you're into that, if you need a team around you to help you consistently build and ship product, take a look at flowgrammer.ca and think about joining our inner circle.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks everyone.